Luigi, honey, have you seen my crown? I can't find it anywhere.
Welcome to Player 2 Props. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this Princess Daisy crown from Super Mario. It's 3D printed, it's airbrushed, and it's attached to this little headband for easy wearing. So, enough messing around, let's get right into the build. Okay, so we're kicking off this build with a 3D print on my FDM 3D printer. Here are all the pieces. We have the main body, the two gems that will be red, and the two flowers with their centerpieces. So the print came out pretty good, but it needs some cleanup. Particularly this seam, and of course, all the layer lines. So I take 150 grit sandpaper, this is the flexible kind, but you can use any kind you want, and I'm going to knock down as many of the imperfections as I can. You want to go over the crown the best you can here, because the more work you put in early, the less you have to do later. You can already see some low spots. They're the parts that are still dark. We're going to need to fill those in the next step. And of course, remember to sand all the pieces. Here I'm sanding one of the flowers. And the first step is done. Here's what all the pieces look like sanded with 150 grit sandpaper. And now we can move on to using everyone's favorite toxic toothpaste, Bondo glazing and spot putty. We squeeze some out and apply it to all the parts of the crown we want to smooth out. It's useful to have a tool handy, like a toothpick, or I have this pottery tool. I use it to remove Bondo from areas I don't want it filling in, like the mating surfaces for the additional pieces and the groove in the crown. I don't know what happened to the lights here, but with the Bondo covering everything and dry, we can sand it smooth. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper this time, and I'm just going over the whole crown. Here's what the pieces look like once the Bondo is sanded. You can see it filling in any low spots and leftover layer lines. Now I'm spraying the pieces with a good old filler primer. I put on a few good even coats, and then it's on the wet sander. I get the pieces wet with my soapy water, and I gently sand the filler primer with 400 grit sandpaper. Here's the pieces after the first pass of wet sanding. After this, I recoated the pieces with more primer, so there was primer covering the bare plastic. Then, a gentler pass of wet sanding, with a higher grit if you like, so you don't sand through it all. We want primer for the paint to stick to. Speaking of paint, then I filled my airbrush with metallic gold paint from Createx and spray the crown. You could also use rattle cans here, but I like the fast drying acrylic paint I can use in my airbrush. You want to make sure you get good even coverage here, so lay down a few coats of paint. You can use a hairdryer to speed up drying time, just don't run it so hot that you warp the print. And don't forget the edges. It's now time for an example of what not to do when painting. Can you already tell what I'm doing wrong here? If you guessed rushing to paint these without a proper way to rotate and secure them, then you guessed correctly. I mean, look at this dude. Oh, look who learned his lesson. Always secure small pieces. You can tape them down or hot glue them to skewers like I did here. Thankfully, I didn't mess anything up. But impatience can kill hours of work depending on what stage of a project you're on. So always take the little bit of extra time to do it right. Here I'm using the same method to paint the teal pieces. Now all the crown parts have color, so it's time to put it all together. First, I superglue the flower pieces together. You really don't need to use very much glue here, so don't go overboard. If any excess glue squeezes out of the sides anyway, you can carefully wipe it with a paper towel. I managed to use the correct amount of glue on the second attempt. No paper towels needed. The red gems go right into these sockets with a little glue. And apparently they have a correct orientation, so be mindful of that. Now I'm scoring the seats for the flowers with a knife, so the glue has more hold onto that smooth paint. The flowers also have a correct orientation, but it's a little more obvious. See, it's easy to tell it's the wrong way, so I flip it around, and then it should go right on. Or not. I guess it was the original way. What is this, a USB? Anyway, now we're good. Third time's the charm. I press firmly on the flowers to fully seat them in place and help the glue do its thing. Now I'm spraying the whole crown with a Createx airbrush clear coat. This clear coat didn't end up being as durable or as shiny as rattle can clears I've used in the past, So maybe use one of those instead. And if you want to go the extra mile in both protection and gloss, you could use a 2K clear coat. The crown is all ready to be displayed. I even made her pair of matching earrings. However, a princess needs to wear her crown, and this is where things get entirely experimental. If you know a better way of attaching a crown to someone's head, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to show you what I scraped together with materials I already had on hand. It did work, and it's completely functional, but it's not the prettiest. So my solution was making two of these. It's half a snap closure, super glued to a bit of jewelry wire. I warned you, it's not pretty. So I took the jewelry wire and I cut a piece and shaped it so that it has a little loop on one end to wrap inside of the snap and also has a tail sticking up at a right angle. Then I used a gel superglue to fix it into the snap closure. You could also try epoxy here, but the gel superglue worked just fine for me. I made two of these bad boys. Then I heated up the piece with my heat gun until it was very hot. And I stuck it into the 3D print. It was able to melt its way through. I wrapped the wire tail around the best I could and added super glue to reinforce the connection. Then, I super glued the other halves of the snaps to this headband. Then you just line up the snaps like this, and it just pops on like so. It's really quite secure, but again, please leave a comment if you know of a better method. Cue the blurry, thank goodness this worked thumbs up. Princess Daisy's crown is done. And we even got earrings to match. This build was just a classic 3D printing, fun little adventure. It's just sanding and painting and sanding and sanding. But then you get this, and it's very nice. I will leave a link in the description to the 3D print files if you want to make your own. And again, let me know if you know of a better way of attaching a 3D printed crown to someone's head. Whether it's modifying the files or if there's like some kind of hardware that you know of. I'm here to learn just as much as you are. I think we can have a nice little exchange of information, so leave a comment. That's it for this video, so leave a like if you liked it. Leave a comment, letting me know what you think, and subscribe if you want more content like this. You can also check out my other videos. I've got one where I do an interesting chrome process on a lightsaber build. I've also got my Pokemon video, or Pokeball video, which is a lot like this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.